Good afternoon, everyone. Afternoon on the East Coast, at least. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Eric Green, and thanks for being here. What I'm going to talk to you about, partially my journey, is in how to implement workflow automation, and what I do for a living really lends itself to leverage. Okay. And it's how you make money doing this. So for those of you who are not familiar with me, I am Eric Green. If you can't see me here, that's what I look like. My background is I am a recovering accountant. All right. I was an accountant, went to law school, decided I didn't really like most of law, and got a master's in tax, an LLM, which dovetailed nicely with my accounting background. And I was going to be an estate planner. Long story short, I end up finding more and more clients getting into trouble. I fall literally into this niche of civil and criminal taxpayer representation. It's what I've done now for 24 years. And I have gone through the entire arc of being a solo, doing everything myself, to now running a 5 million, 25 person firm where we must have systems in place and have to automate what we do. And the other thing I just want to tell you from the get-go, I am a big believer in reverse engineering, meaning, listen, I've built $5 million law firm. I have a multi-million-dollar training program. Here's the deal. The only two questions you have to ask yourself is, where do you want to go in terms of your business? And what price are you willing to pay to do that? What how are you willing to work at it and put things in place and do things? If you don't know where you want to go, it's impossible to get there, right? So I figured out, all right, listen, this is what I want my practice to be. Now, how do I do that? And start walking backwards, and began to realize I needed to talk to some friends of mine about finding some solutions, because Eric just doing everything, I mean, you can do it, you'll be okay, but you're just going to work yourself to death. And there's a limited amount of time. Time is the one thing you can't buy more of. And so what I'm hopeful is, as I walk you through what I use and why, you'll be able to see, oh, that's why he does it. That's why he has that. It's literally was, here's my issue, or here's what I want to accomplish. What do I put in place there? So though I'm going to be talking in terms of IRS representation, I believe this will work for anything: bookkeeping, forensic accounting, tax advisory, tax compliance. You may not use necessarily what I use, but the process is really the same. So, what else do you need to know about me? I'm the founder of TaxRep Network. I wrote the insider's guides, to everything on IRS collection, and launched the certificate program, the CTRC. And I have the weekly TaxRep Network podcast for those of you who listen to that. So, again, in terms of representation, for those of you who don't do IRS representation, let me give you a little bit of background. It's actually pretty easy. Meaning this is not complicated. In fact, it's very linear. And what I mean by that is, give an example. When clients call, they call and they want to tell you a story, right? The story is going to be exciting and tragic all simultaneously. Honestly, if they would just give me the notices, I'll know immediately where they are, because the IRS is part of its process. It's very formulaic. There is an order to this. That's the way the IRS system works. And so it may seem random, especially when you don't really understand how the process is. But the truth is, it's very linear and very simple to follow. So if you are a CPA or an EA, this is something you should be adding as a no-brainer to your existing practice, right? It's really process and formula. So how do you make money when you have process and formula? Leverage. You have to leverage staff, and you have to leverage the technology. And my staff, let me give you just kind of how I run $1 million rep practice. I don't have CPAs and attorneys. I don't need them. My staff, now we do have Amanda in my staff is an EA, actually, and Dave Parducci's an EA, but they went and got that. They didn't start off that way. Nicole and Beth, Nicole doesn't even have a college degree. I just need folks who can look at documents and at the time identify, sort things out. I don't need to hire attorneys to do this work. So therefore I can leverage staff and I can, not to be crude, I can get labor at a much cheaper rate than if I were hiring attorneys to do this. They just need to be detail oriented. And as I grew, like right now I have over 230 open matters. It's critical to be able to have a process. Otherwise, as I'm sure all of you know, especially if you do tax returns, it will become chaotic. Things will get missed, deadlines will get blown, especially in my world, deadlines are everything. So and probably in yours too, you have the filing deadlines, but for us, CDP deadlines set by IRS revenue officers, that all has to happen. And we have to know where every single case is. It's actually how I found Financial Sense, by the way, was the workflow on my cases, because as volume picked up, I used to do it in Excel. And that doesn't work anymore. So what do I use? So right now, as I just mentioned, I use Financial Sense. It's how I track everything that's going on with every one of my cases. And we've actually built out templates for all of the different IRS rep services, so that we aren't starting from scratch. If a new client comes in and they need a lien discharge, we have a template. It's already assigned to who's doing what. We have our checklist, and it's as automated as we can make it. I use ENQ to get through to the IRS in under 3 minutes. Nice job I used to follow up to get 5-star reviews. About a year and a half ago, we had 40, I think it was about 40 Google 5-star reviews. Today we have, I think, over 410 or 415. It's nice job. I don't even have to follow up with the client. It does it for me. RC reports. If we have an audit or I'm consulting with an S Corp, this is a hot button item with the IRS right now. So if you do C Corp or S Corp returns, the reports you get out of RC reports will bulletproof that return, right? Assuming the client follows it, it'll bulletproof that audit. I use Ignition to get people signed up, paid, and follow up, because again, when you have a volume, I'll kind of explain that, but we use Smart Vault in terms of getting the documents up, and also for business continuity. Everything is backed up. So if I'm on the road, or God forbid we have a fire, whatever, everything is in the cloud. Everything is secure and backed up. We can, work, transfer stuff between members here on the staff, and it makes it simple for clients to just upload. And I use TaxRep software, which is really software for those of you who do IRS representation or do anything in terms of penalty abatement or non-filers. It's how we get all of the account transcripts, the wage and earning reports, and it also does all my resolution forms. So, and finally, Liscio, which is what I use in terms of our communication with clients. If you're not following this, the IRS with the WISP, which is their kind of, here's what you should be doing. 95% of all data breaches occur or start with email. And one, and two, I don't want clients having my cell phone number. Everything goes through Liscio. Everything is logged. Everything is secure. We have had to represent accountants who actually had a data breach. It will pretty much wipe out your practice. Clients, once they find out, clients are going to leave. You're going to have to pay for monitoring for your clients. That alone is going to be a hit. Chances are you can get sued, and there are also fines on behalf of the government. So net, we use Liscio. Everything is secure. So let's just give you a little bit of background on kind of the landscape, the IRS landscape, and sort of what we see. So the picture, I'm obviously the ugly guy on the right. The lovely lady to the left is Nikki Johnson. Nikki is the director of IRS campus collections. She's out of Atlanta. She and I were doing an update at NYU. Right now, in the world of tax and IRS, there are more than 10 million non-filers that the IRS has already identified and they are going after. If you haven't seen an uptick yet in this, you're going to. We have more and more non-filers coming in constantly because they're getting either notices from the IRS or they're getting summons to show up with their records. So non-filers, first of all, it's pretty profitable, and there's a huge need. There are more than 15 million taxpayers right now that owe balances to the IRS, right? That doesn't include the non-filers who are probably also going to owe balances to the IRS once they file. So we're looking at 25 million taxpayers. That's roughly one out of every 7 that have an issue with the government. Okay? And starting in June, 8 million balance due notices went out. Now, the expectation was the automated enforcement was going to start after Labor Day through the end of the year, and it was going to go out in waves. And the rationale, according to Nikki, which made sense, is the IRS right now could go and levy 3 million people today. These folks have already had their final notice. Everything got put on ice during COVID, but the IRS could flip the switch, levy them today. Nobody wants to do that because what happens? If they levy 3 million people today, the phone lines are going to get jammed. Taxpayer advocate is going to get overrun. Appeals is going to get overrun. The reason this hasn't started is because of the potential for government shutdown. I don't want to get political, so I don't want to fight with anyone, but we were facing a potential shutdown that went up to the 11th hour. And given the circus that we see going on in Congress right now, there's a decent shot we may actually be having a shutdown in another few weeks. We don't even have a Speaker of the House. So net, the IRS does not want to start sending automated enforcement notices if there's a chance nobody's going to be there to answer the phones. So this has kind of been put on hold, but we know it's coming. The commissioner's already signed off. So there is going to be a tidal wave of work. We already have a high volume of work. So what we've been doing here, that's why we've been building templates in financial sense. We need to have our process locked down. Right. And again, I'm doing it in terms of IRS rep, but what I'm talking about, you can do for anything. Bookkeeping, forensic accounting, tax return prep, tax advisory, if you do sales tax work, doesn't matter. All right. From getting client in to getting paid, followed up, having it done, and all of that, it doesn't matter whether it's IRS rep or any of the other services. The process is going to be effectively the same, even if the details are a little bit different. So how do you generate $1 million? Okay. Well, first of all, a couple things. One, and this is just practice in general. So first of all, are you pricing your services accordingly? I'm willing to bet most of you aren't, right? When we have new TaxRep members join, and we're chatting, the first thing I'll say is, well, how much are you charging for your 1040s or 1120s? And you know this feeling. I remember it. I was desperate for the work, so I would low bid. I would get the work in, get the clients in. That's a disaster. All right, you're spending a ton of time for little money, and you've also set the expectation that you will be underpriced. You'll be a bargain. We're not a bargain. Okay, we view ourselves as among the best at what we do, and we charge accordingly. So here's what I would suggest. If any of you have actually read the book, there's a whole chapter on this. Basically, I would pull your client list. All right, now that this filing season is over, pull your client list. First of all, you shouldn't have receivables, or not a lot. If you do, go collect your receivables first. What I would do is sit back on a weekend with your favorite drink, and I would rank your clients A to F. All right, you know the A clients. You love these people. They're paying you a very fair fee. They're good to work with. And they don't time suck, right? They don't just, waste your time. The B clients are probably those that could be A clients, but you just don't really have the time to spend with them. Why? Well, let's talk about the C clients. The C clients are ones that they can really go either way. you could live with them or you not live with them, really. The D's and the F's, you know who they are. These are the people you dread dealing with. These are the people that just suck your soul to live. They waste your time. They're always late. They're always at the 11th hour. They don't want to go on extension. All right. They're the ones who are saying, well, I could go somewhere else and get it cheaper. So here's what I'm going to suggest. I don't know about you, the world where you live, the world that I live in, everything goes up. My staff, for some reason, want raises. The rent goes up. The half and half, the coffee, everything goes up. The software packages go up. Why would you be an exception to that? So first of all, prices go up every year, all right? The A clients you're going to raise, but you'd raise them normally. The B clients you're going to raise. C clients are going to go up significantly. What do you do about the D's and the F's? I'm going to tell you what I think. What I would do is I would send them a letter simply saying you've grown, you're simply too busy, you're unable now to manage their account. They need to go find somebody else. They should have copies of all their original records. Thank you very much for your past service. We wish you the best of luck. Doesn't have to be mean, but basically we're showing you the door. Why? You're going to do less work and make more money. All right. That's the point. The point is to spend the time on cases and clients you can make money and where you're being paid accordingly. So that's an easy one right out of the gate. What else are we going to do? Work out your process. If you sat and quietly said, okay, from when a phone call comes in, because this is what I did, what happens? And once I sat and scratched it all out, now I sat down, and Don Brolin sat down with me and said, okay, what can we automate here? All right. And we literally went and broke down the process. I had my staff in, we talked about this. We looked at different things because you need buy-in. The team's got to buy in. If the team's not going to use it, then the technology is worthless. So we had buy-in. We looked at the different software and we began implementing it. And one by one, we've automated. We have been able to free up over 10 hours a week of staff time. When you look at what we're charging and billing for them, listen, 500 hours a year of found time is huge. All right. What do you do with that free time? Go get more clients. And now you're not going to undercharge. Now you're going to charge accordingly. All right. Marketing as a business owner. And again, I've been everything from solo to now managing partner over 24 other people. The thing you need to understand, marketing is not a sometimes thing. It's an all the time thing. If you are a business owner, you need to work on your business, not in your business. If you're working in your business, all you have is a job. And frankly, it's the worst job you'll ever have. Because if you don't work, you don't get paid. At least an employee can call in sick and probably still get paid. So you need to start to unwind you being at the center of everything, whether it's just bad processes or ego or whatever it is. With me, it was a little bit of both. You have to step back and start putting processes in place to do this. One is making sure the staff are doing what they should be done. You have the right staff in place, but then putting in the technology so that from end to end, you have as much automation as you can. That is how you leverage. That is how you make more money. And your options are either to do more with what you have, or frankly, make more doing less and free yourself up. We have TaxRep members that work tax season, but are done at 6 p.m. every night. They go home. They're not working till 11 o'clock at night. They don't have to. All right. They've gotten their practice under control. The idea is, can you shed the clients that you shouldn't be wasting time with and go find clients that you should? I have to tell you something. There's such a shortage of good accountants. Finding clients. All right. So again, how did I get started doing this? Because the technology is like a car to me. I can drive it, but I don't know how it works. I am not the most tech savvy person, just to be blunt. So again, what did I do? I know where I want to go. So how many cases, what type of cases do I have to get to hit $1 million? Okay, I've got that number. How am I going to get this done? Right, what do I need in terms of staff, and what can we automate? And begin mapping that out all the way back to the beginning. It's okay, now how many clients do I have to get? And now how am I going to market to get those clients? And so I engineered backwards. Once I had the flow out of how our process works or should work, what can we put in place? So how did I find Ignition? All right. One of the big frustrations that I have is we will get a phone call from a client, Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith has a tax problem. And I would have a conversation with Mr. Smith. We would, take his information. We'd send him out a retainer agreement. I don't know about you. And 2 hours later, I've already forgotten about Mr. Smith. I'm too busy. I've moved on. Well, I had all these yellow legal pad pages that we put in a file for potential clients. And at the end of every year, we'd open it up and we'd have 30 or 40, of these potential clients that never called back. We never followed up with. Given that our average fee is about $8,500. So to me, what I'm looking at is about $300,000 of money that was left on the table. Well, I don't like leaving money on the table. I don't know about you, but I want good paying work. I want the work. So what Ignition does is it allows me to send all this stuff out. And if I don't hear from them or they don't do something, Ignition will follow up for me. And what we'll find is we actually have a lot of 2 weeks, 3 weeks go by, and all of a sudden I'll get an alert that someone opened up the letter and signed the letter. In fact, I've almost forgotten about who it is. Like, who is this? And Nicole will tell me, remember Mr. Smith? He had the payroll tax problem. Okay. We have notes now that we've loaded in. But the point is, I don't have to worry about having somebody, follow up. It does it for me. It alerts me when it's signed. It alerts me when we're paid. This way, once we're paid, Nicole can confirm, okay, we've been paid. Now we can get to work on it, because Mr. Green doesn't do anything until Mr. Green, the money, shows up. That might sound a little harsh, but any of you who've been in business know exactly what I'm talking about. The client that, you kind of felt bad for, and in the end, you get stuck. Now, as an accountant, if you're doing tax, I shouldn't say as an accountant, but if you're doing a tax return, you have a little bit of leverage that you don't have to hit the send key and file until you're paid, and you shouldn't be. But with IRS representation, we often have to file a power of attorney and get involved immediately. They're getting levied. They have an urgent matter. We get paid. We get paid up front. All right. We take retainers. All right. In Ignition, I've actually loaded all my agreements. All of that stuff, our checklist, everything is preloaded in. So we can just go in and Nicole just puts their information in, click, 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 and out it goes. They get their letter, they get a link to pay, and they get our checklist. Oh, and they get the power of attorney to sign. Right? We get notified when all of it's done, and if they don't do it, it follows up automatically. Right? We are leaving far less money on the table. In fact, I should actually ask her. I don't know that we're leaving any. I mean, we're closing, I think, almost everyone that contacts us. All right. So one of the things that goes out, though, is a link to SmartVault. And that is, we need lots of documents to, and again, if you're doing tax return prep, you probably know the same thing. Certainly if you're doing accounting or bookkeeping, we need documents. So SmartVault link goes out. They have their own folder, and often now we actually set up a template with the different types of folders, which saves us a lot of time on our end. For, let's say, an offer in compromise, there's a lot of documents we need. Proof of income, 3 months of bank statements, proof of housing, utility bills, all the stuff we need. Well, what we would usually get is either a big, UPS package box with all this stuff, like in a pile, Or more and more, we would get one PDF file, 300 pages of what looks like, financial vomit, for my staff to then have to, it would almost be easier just to print the stuff to sort it all out. Now they will get folders which walk them through what we need. Put the bank statements here, the power of attorney goes in here, our letter goes in here. And it saves us, again, more time. Why? Well, we charge $6,000 for an offer. Actually, let me tell you how an offer and compromise with us works. So if you call, first of all, you don't get me anymore. You get Nicole. Nicole does the intake. And what she would say is, look, if you want to see if you're an offer candidate, we charge $2,500. Now you might be thinking the client goes, ooh, $2,500. She said, look, we charge $2,500. When we have everything, we will do the analysis, set up the consult with you in person, Zoom, whatever, and walk you through what your options are, why. All right. If you are an offer candidate, we charge $6,000 for the offer, minus the $2,500 you've already paid. So we would just need another $3,500. And the reason for this is, if you're not an offer candidate, why pay $5,000, $8,000, $10,000 like those national companies? You have better things to do with your money. We have better things to do with our time, right? And if it's going to be an installment agreement, it would only be another $1,000. Clients love that. They're like, wait a minute, you're going to actually get my stuff, do the work, walk me through what happens for $2,500. That's way better than those national companies. Like, I don't consider the national companies competition. They aren't. People would rather work with someone local, and they like that approach. But on our end, what happens? So Nicole spends about an hour. All of this stuff gets done. Everything gets uploaded. Let's say she spends another 2 hours inputting it into TaxRep software. All right. Which, by the way, we're working on automating now, but it's not there yet. So Nicole, at $150 an hour that she bills out at, has spent $450. I now get draft documents. I'll spend about 30 minutes reviewing them. And then let's say I spend a full hour with the client. I'm $600 an hour. So that's $900. So we are now in for $1,150. We charged $2,500. The client is an offer candidate. We get the other $3,500 in. We've already got the forms done. We pull up one of our cover letters. Nicole takes first stab at it. I, Amanda, Lisa, somebody else will do the editing and sign off, and the package will go out the door, right? So maybe there's another 2 hours of Nicole's time, and let's call it an hour of one of our times. So we're probably in now for $2,500, and we got $6,000. Before, Nicole was following up. We were sending FedEx packages, coming in, scanning everything. We have knocked several hours off of this whole process. So the point is, people ask me, like, wouldn't you rather do like a big criminal case? No. Might be interesting, but it's rate times hour. I have a client that's good chances going to jail, and it's very stressful. Offers, I have staff we can leverage. I have software we can leverage. Before TaxRep software, we would have to call, wait on hold, get transcripts, and then fill in the forms by hand. Online, fill them in. We offers and compromise, we basically triple our money from our billing rate. We'll be in for maybe $1,500 to $2,000. We're charging $6,000, and we're not the most expensive folks. They are highly profitable. Lien discharges, highly profitable, because we have the system in place and it's all automated. All right. Same thing. Power of attorney. We get it electronically. We literally just upload it straight into the IRS portal. 3 days later, TaxRep software starts trying to pull. We will pull all the transcripts down. Wage and earning reports. If they're a non-filer, we're going to get everything the IRS has. Right. And if you call the IRS, they'll go back 6 years. With TaxRep software, we can often go back 15 years. Why, I don't know, but I'll take it. All right. If we have to call the IRS to get a hold, we pay for ENQ. It's $300 a month, which is not inexpensive. But I will tell you, we have shaved probably another 10 to 12 hours of hold time with the IRS by using the service. So for us, it pays off, right? Because we're calling the IRS all the time. If you don't call the IRS that much, it may not be worthwhile. But and with S Corp, your S Corp clients and C Corps, Like we use RC reports. Now we don't do returns. So when I'm pulling the RC report, it's because they've been selected for audit, and I want to see kind of how far off we are here in terms of their reasonable comp. But the software is like $1,500 a year. If you do these returns, this is simply just part of the process. And knowing that this is now a priority for the IRS, I would get a newsletter out to all of those clients, C Corps and S Corps, to say, look, IRS is talking tough. They're going after people. All right. It's going to cost you, I would suggest $750. $750. We have to do an annual year end. Let's run the report. And this is how we're going to set your payroll up for next year. And we will bulletproof this so you don't have to worry about this. If you have 20 S Corp and C Corp clients, it's $15,000 on $1,500 software. It's an annuity, right? And you're doing the right thing by the client. And by the way, you're also avoiding a malpractice issue because you've done everything you can to bulletproof this. I will tell you, the cases we've had where we presented the report, the auditor just moves on. They can't punch holes in the report. Even if they don't necessarily agree with the exact number, they're not going to come up with anything better. What they're looking for is someone who has no backup, because now they can go to town on you. Right? Now, we've got our offer done. It's been accepted. By the way, I found this by mistake. All right, and I'll tell you the story. So, if you don't do this kind of work, here's what happens. After we finish a case, we revoke power of attorney. Now, the reason for that is I have other colleagues that don't. And so what happens is, every now and then you keep getting notices on these clients you haven't seen in a while. Well, one of my friends got a final notice of intent to levy, attempted to call and email the client, got no response. Did nothing. They're not retained. They're not representing the client anymore. The client got levied. They sued my friend saying, you had it, you should have known. Now, in the end, my friend, it was clear that the case got thrown out, but still $10,000 in legal fees later. So the moment the case is over, we revoke power of attorney. And the way that you do that, by the way, you have a cover letter and to the CAF, the Centralized Authorization File Unit, and say, we're revoking our power of attorney. You sign it. You have the power of attorney. You go a line. I go from lower left to upper right, line through it, and write revoke. Attach that and send it to the CAF unit, and they'll revoke. When you revoke power of attorney, a letter from the IRS goes out to the taxpayer and says, Attorney Eric Green has revoked power of attorney. The IRS will now deal with you directly. Clients lose their stuff over this. They started calling up hysterical. Why are you firing me? We're not firing you. I'm not going to babysit this. So I had a client say, I'll pay you. Just please keep your power of attorney on file. Okay. He said, how much? And we were charging a $500 fee as a consult. So I said, okay, $500. And they paid it. And we got a new power of attorney, which we submitted, and that we have power of attorney on file. And by the way, if you're not aware of this, your power of attorney can go out 3 years past the current year. So right now we're filling in our powers of attorney through December 31st, 2026. Right? If you read the instructions, you can go 3 years past the current year. So after that, I said, well, wait a minute. Will other people pay for this? So we sent a letter to probably 300 clients. We have right now 151 clients paying us $500 a year. So we're making about $75,000 as an annuity just to monitor, and TaxRep software does it automatically. So once a month, Nicole just pulls. You can literally update your transcripts. It pulls up to 100,000 an hour. So under an hour, we have all the transcripts. And after you pull them, you don't have to go through them. TaxRep software will bring up a dashboard showing every client where there's been a change since the last time you pulled. So now we have the entire listing, and we can contact clients saying, did you default? They're saying you're now back in collection. Or, you know what, you've been flagged for an audit. We don't have to panic yet. It could just be a matching thing, like the automated underreporter, they're just matching W-2 stuff. So you may not hear from them, but we wanted to make you aware of that. What this does is a number of things. First of all, it's free money. it's money for keeping an eye out for them, but it's light lifting. Number two, where do you think the client's going to go if they now have a problem? They're coming right back to us. We have the power of attorney. We were the ones on top of this. So it's also a way of making sure that client stays, right? And number three, we only get paid $500 a year to track, to monitor. We now have to get a whole new engagement letter, and get a whole new retainer, and we start on whatever the new problem is. All right. So it does take the walking annuity and really tie them in to the firm. It is light lifting. You're doing a good by the client. I have TaxRep members that have taken this to a whole different level. They're charging $95 a month. So they're getting almost $1,100 a year, about $1,140 a year, and they have clients paying it. So I was a solo. And for those of you who are small firms or solos, I think you're going to understand what I'm about to say. I need to justify every dime that I'm going to spend. All right. So if I have software, we need to show either how we're saving money or we're making money. Right. We don't even now that we're not such a small firm anymore, the partners here still all have small firm attitude. We will spend whatever if we can justify it. Don't get me wrong. We have the top estate planning software. We will spend as long as it makes sense. We will spend, but we're gonna look pretty carefully. We don't spend willy-nilly. All right. So knowing that I'm just making money on the software, RC reports and tax help software are just annuities for me. Financial sense, by tracking all those cases, we save hours of updating an Excel spreadsheet. It pays for itself. I would say we don't spend money on anything. It's only a matter of how much money we make or save on all of this. Now, reviews are critical. I was asking people to review us. I don't know about you. They walk out the door. They're worrying about where the Starbucks is. Out of sight, out of mind. We weren't getting many reviews. I think we had like 40. Nice job. Kind of like Ignition. I can put the client information in, name, email, and it will, and then send an email. Would you give us a review? It will follow up 4 times with them. I have to tell you, by the 3rd or 4th time, we have quadrupled the number of reviews. TaxRep now has over 410 5-star reviews. The other thing is I can actually set it so that if it is, you can pick whatever level you want. But if it's a 5-star, it will automatically post it to my social media, that review. There's a widget. It'll go right on our website. So it's just automated. I don't have to worry about, even if I remember to tell the client or ask the client, they'll get an email within a day or two asking for a review, and it'll follow up and it'll follow up. And I find it's the 3rd time when something usually, that's just my own observation, but it's like $75 a month. And if you're a TaxRep member, it's like 50% for the first 3 months. Oh, and by the way, if you tell your clients about it and they sign up for their businesses, you actually get paid. There's a partner program for accountants with Nice Job. So if you're interested, you can always, I can point you to them. But we have, as much as we can, automated everything through the entire process, from getting them on to literally the follow-up at the end. So for this presentation, I kind of broke this down with ENQ. Amanda, who's an EA, I can't stand it anymore. I did it for 20 years. Amanda does all the calling to the IRS to get holds and all that stuff. We've shaved 5 hours a week of her sitting on the hold time by using ENQ, because you can get through in usually under 3 minutes, right? That's $1,500 of her billable time. Now, yes, you can have them on hold, but you're not as first of all, multitasking doesn't work. I don't know if you know that or not. It doesn't work. Ignition, we've automated this. So what I can tell you is, how much money do we make with Ignition? Well, we used to leave roughly about 40 cases a year on the table. Our average case is just under $9,000, right? That's $360,000. We're not leaving many now, okay? So I would suggest to you, we probably picked up an extra $200,000 to $300,000 of work. because of Ignition and the automated feature of it going out and following up on clients that out of sight, out of mind, or potential clients. The moment we hung up the phone or the moment they walked out the door, I don't know about you, I'm busy. I moved on. All right. RC reports, we've created an annuity with it, and we don't even do returns, right? This is just from audits. If you do S Corp or C Corp returns, by the way, you should get it for a whole host of reasons. One, to bulletproof your client's return and take any malpractice issue off the table. All right. And by the way, just, you know, the way reasonable comp is supposed to work. I know some of you are like, well, look at whatever you're paying your employees, we'll just take something a little bit more. No, that's not the process. Some folks might be saying, well, we'll take whatever, you know, the Social Security Medicare cutoff is like 160, we'll take 160. No. You're probably way overpaying. And you're not getting saving. The taxpayer's not going to get their savings that they could. What you're supposed to do, what all the case law says, is you're supposed to break down what they do for the company and put a price on that. So here, I'm everything, right? I'm an attorney, I'm practicing. What is that worth per hour? I'm also managing. What is that worth per hour? There are times when I'm also the janitor and also the cleaning crew in the kitchen when our people don't clean up after themselves on a Friday afternoon, which irritates the hell out of me, but whatever. You get where I'm going with this. You would look at all the different tasks, put a price on what that would cost to hire that out. You know, if you hired somebody, come up with an hourly rate and apply it times the number of hours that the taxpayer is working on their business. I don't know about you, no client's going to want to pay for that. And I'm pretty sure you don't want to do that. RC Reports has like 20 million businesses in their database. So they will literally give you this 6, 8, 10-page report that it breaks all of this down and comes up with your client based on where they are, the type of industry they're in, and the time that they spend. It'll come up with the salary. When you have that report and you give that to an auditor, they'll want a copy of it. They'll say, this is interesting, thank you. And if that's what your client's doing, or in my case, I can show where clients have actually taken more than that, the reasonable comp issue goes away. When the auditor leaves, that's the end of the issue. They're not going to pursue it the next time they come in. Why? You know, they're not going to start a fight over nickels and dimes. The fact that you have a report and it supports roughly what your client has done, issue's over. They're going to move on to something else. They'd rather go after something else easy. Tax help software, as I mentioned. Okay, we're making about $73,000 a year just monitoring. Aside from the time we save just pulling transcripts, wage and earning reports for non-filers. You know, the client brings you their stuff. How do you know it's complete? We want wage and earning reports. I want what does the IRS have? We get it all with the software. And anything that changes, we get alerted. Financial sense. It has taken stress off my life, which was aging me, because my biggest fear is we blow a deadline. And now I have a client that I'm looking at a malpractice claim, right? And I'd have to tell my carrier every case, and I'll show you, screenshots of this a little bit later. We have a template. It's assigned to people. I can log in and see where every case stands and who has it and the deadline's coming up, right? It's just easy peasy. It has a light CRM built into it, so we can send stuff out to clients, reminders. Hey, quarterly payments are, you make your quarterly estimated tax payment. If you have foreign accounts, remember, you got to tell your accountant about the FBAR that's got to get filed. All these reminders, we can automate and have it just go out to them. And I mentioned, nice job. We went from 80 to 172 5-star reviews in 3 hours. When I put this together a month ago, we were at 275. We're now over 400. It just automatically follows up. And I'll tell you, it does take the third or fourth time, but you will get clients. All right. And if you sign up with their partner program, not only can you get this for free, you can actually get paid for your business clients that use it, because it works for any business, not just lawyers and accountants. Any business that has, a clientele. Think about how you shop for anything. How about you? When I'm on Amazon, I go to the reviews. Right? Online, I want to see the reviews, right? And if there's a bad review, I want to see how the business responded to it, right? By the way, nice job. Actually, they told me to do that. We had somebody once give us TaxRep, a 1-star review. And we had no record of who this person was. I mean, literally had no idea who they were. And, they told me you have to respond professionally. So we responded saying, we're sorry you're unhappy. Unfortunately, we have no record of you doing anything. Could you please respond so we can make it right? Google, which had dinged us, put us right back up to 5 stars. So, what we do. So again, what we did and what I suggest you do is flow out your process from when the phone rings. By the way, for those of you who are young, that's what a telephone used to look like. Anyway, I'm showing my age. Anyway, from when the phone rings, what is our process? So instead of Eric spending 15 minutes on a may or maybe not, we have now automated our intake form, right? Nicole will figure out, who is this person? Does this make economic sense? We get people call up, they say I owe $500. We're not going to do that, not at our hourly rates. And don't laugh. The letter C, is this person crazy? She has indicated this person sounds like they're off their rocker, so we can very gently tell them we're not interested. If you have a mortal enemy, refer them to them. Anyway, we go into Ignition, pull up our template, out it goes. We've already built our pricing in. So, I mean, we can override this if this is going to be complicated, but basically it's automated. I'll tell Nicole, yep, it's a lien discharge. We're going to charge our standard $2,500. It's all in there. So very quickly, she can go in there, get everything out for the client to review and sign. We then get notified, right, when that's done, and they will get the Smart Vault link, the link to the power of attorney, as well as our list of documents. Once the client has signed, paid, we get alerted. It's here. This is a screenshot of my financial sense. For a tax lien discharge, we have created this template. So every tax lien discharge request that we get, we don't have to recreate the steps and assign it. It pops up. We can assign it. Is it an admin, preparer, right? Or is it the reviewer? And we've done this for everything: payroll tax cases, offers and compromise, audits, whatever it is. We have this is just templated. This way, not only is everyone here on the same page, and by the way, and as a training perspective, some of our other staff we brought in now actually can see what the process is, just because of the workflow. But so it also helps train new people to walk through. So this is what we do. These are the steps that have to happen, so nothing gets missed. Afterward, like I mentioned, we're going to revoke power of attorney. More and more what we'll today say is, look, we're going to revoke power of attorney. However, before we do that, would you like us to monitor, right? We charge $500 a year. I would say 60, I don't have a good number, but 65% of clients sign up, right, going forward. So what we do is we simply get, once a month, we pull anything that gets flagged. We can let the client know. And so anyway, I took a screenshot, by the way, of the monitoring. So when we're monitoring the account, right, what you're looking at, okay, what you're looking at is this is what the dashboard looks like. So when I kind of circled there, this individual has now been flagged for an exam, right? Account examination active. Now, does this mean that we're going to have an auditor send a letter? No. All right. An account examination can be anything from the automated under reporter, which at the IRS is where they're matching, right? W-2s, 1099s. I'm sure you've seen a CP 2000. That's the notice from the IRS that comes out and it says, Mr. Smith, we believe that you've missed this income, this 1099. If you agree, just sign. If you disagree, submit the backup and explain why, right? It's what we call a combo letter. It's more what the IRS uses now more and more. And so what happens is that comes in, that's what this could be. Or it could actually be going to a field auditor who's going to send a letter saying you've been selected for audit, congratulations. Here are the documents that I'm going to want to look at. But either way, just so you know, when this pops up, it generally pops up between 90 and 120 days before any notice comes out from the IRS. So I don't want to necessarily ethically suggest this, but there are some practitioners who, if they find a client, they know the client should, amend, and the client doesn't want to amend their return, they can recommend the monitoring. And if suddenly that year gets picked for an audit, we know we have 120 days probably to hurry up and get the amended return in so we can avoid accuracy penalties. If you file a corrected return on your own without being contacted, you can avoid the accuracy penalty. So I know some practitioners that utilize this in those situations as well. I don't think we should be ethically recommending to clients that, under Circular 230, we're supposed to tell a client, hey, you have a mistake, you're supposed to amend. Whether they do or not is not your problem, but you just have to document that you recommend it. Dawn must be a mortal enemy. She referenced a referral from you that did not sound as though it was her favorite client. So, John, let me tell you something. Given what I do, and Dawn on the forensic side do, sometimes we work with fantastic people that have just had something horrible happen to them. I have clients that have had things happen I wouldn't wish on people, on my mortal enemy. On the flip side, there are a lot of people that aren't pleasant, right? I mean, we do deal with criminals. Not as many as you think, but we do, all right? And so, if you want to do forensic work, if you want to do, back when I was starting off 20-something years ago, Bob Percy, my former senior partner, said to me, like, do you want to get involved in criminal cases? I was like, oh, yeah, that'd be awesome. He said, just understand something. You are going to deal with guilty people, and they're going to go to jail, and you need to be okay with that. Not okay meaning like you're not going to try, but meaning you have to understand where this goes. Success in the criminal tax arena doesn't necessarily mean clearing someone, although if you can do that because they didn't do it, that's wonderful. But it's often minimizing the damage that they've done. In other words, we didn't create the disaster. We're just here to help clean up the mess. So Dawn may need a reminder that she just is there to clean up the mess. But sometimes when these clients come in, non-filers or criminal cases, they're messy, all right? I'm sure you've dealt with an audit where your client doesn't really have the records you thought they had, sort of like that. Folks are saying, do you use different pricing tiers? We do. And again, I can go in and I can override. I'm not, just because I put in $2,500 for a lien discharge with ignition, doesn't mean that I'm stuck with $2,500. I've had folks come in where there's an issue with the title. The old buyer never did anything. So now we're going to have to go find the attorney, get the title insurance company involved. We've done this where we've taken $10,000 retainers and billed hourly, right? And that's kind of the upfront analysis of what are we looking at here. But routinely, they're fairly simple. And at $2,500, we make good money because it costs us under $1,000 in time to do these. All right. So you can have different tiers, and also you're not stuck with anything that you're doing, or anything that that necessarily you haven't locked yourself in. But it helps if at the baseline, everyone here, we're all on the same page. So I don't have people quoting different prices. No. We are all on the same page. It doesn't matter who you call here. They will give you, basically, we're all working off the same agreement. We have the same checklist. We have the same pricing structure. All right. And it's how we make sure that everything here is, as you get bigger and bigger, and as you put this stuff in place, what I have found the danger, a few years ago, about 5-6 years ago, it's more than a few years ago, about 6-7 years ago, we actually discovered that some of the partners had not increased the hourly rates and other partners did. We had agreed, but some folks didn't do it in their letters. So we had partners sending out different letters quoting different rates for the same attorneys, which is it's not good. First of all, we should be getting the actual rate. But two, if the same client gets two different letters, now there's an issue. Like, well, which is it? Why are you using two different rates? So in putting all the automation in place, we have now centralized and have created a template. And when we agree to an annual increase in our prices, and we do it annually, it goes in and it's across the board. We don't have that issue anymore, right? And because it's an ethical problem, honestly, for an attorney. I don't want to have to go to the grievance. It's called the grievance committee, which is a very unpleasant sounding thing, but it's the grievance committee in Connecticut where they ethically, you can be pulled up and they want you to explain why you're not violating the ethics rules. And if you're using different rates and different people for the same thing, that's, again, you might be able to explain it away, but we don't have good control over our letters. It's not going to go over well. So it really has helped us, again, capture more money, make sure we're all billing at the same rate, but also make sure everything is consistent. All right. And that's what a lot of this does, is it helps keep everything consistent. The letter that goes out is consistent. You don't have staff taking their stab at drafting something. That is a recipe for disaster. We're all working off the same thing. If something has to be edited, that's fine. I can do it. One of the partners can do it. But there's a reason why we do that. Okay. And they saw the question, Eric, what if after a year or two they don't want to have the monitoring done anymore? We can just revoke power of attorney, right? We just say, okay, very good. We'll fax in the revoke, and if you need us in the future, you know where we are. So that's not a big deal. Do I see an issue? Well, I got two. Do I see an issue with getting clients to pay for RC reports? I couldn't sit in on all the sessions, but I'm pretty sure someone must have talked about relationship pricing. Don Brolin, I know, was a big one on this. If you can move to that, the cost of the RC reports, you just have to factor in when you price that engagement. I saw another question flash up. What happens if you have too many C to F clients? Well, here's what I would do. Josh, you got to pay the bills. You got to pay the bills. But what you want to do is make sure that you raise them every year, for the additional cost. I would start marketing for better clients, for A-type clients, new clients that come in. You want to try to now fill in at the top. And as you're doing that and you start to get too busy, you'll find it easier to fire the ones at the bottom. Right. And again, there's so many people looking for accountants now. One of the big issues we have is we have non-filers. We will call around to the accountants we know here locally, my TaxRep members, and most of them don't want them. They're too busy as it is. Shannon, what was the process for deciding what to automate and how to automate? Well, Shannon, what I mentioned, if you sit down and you draw out what is the process from when client comes in to the end, what's the process and what has to happen? And so for me, it was, we have to get the letter out. We have to get the documents in. We have to get our power of attorney signed. And so I put these steps in. And then if I wasn't familiar with it, I brought in folks that were, Don Brolin being one of them, Gaynor, Melky, for any of you who know Gaynor, came in and they would sit with me and say, look, here are your options for this. Don was like, let me tell you about Financial Sense. That's how I found a lot of these folks. All right. A lot of the programs we use is I asked other people. And if you don't go to them, there are some conferences where you can walk through the exhibit hall and there is every kind of software under the sun. I'm blown away by it. But that's what I did. Look at the process, look what has to get done, and find the solution for that. What are some things to look for when interviewing candidates to determine whether they are detail oriented? What I did, Nicole came to us from a medical office where she helped them with their billing, which is detail oriented. You never really know. The interview process is never great. I would look and see what kind of job they had before, or even their hobbies and interests. And that may give you an indication of whether somebody is detail oriented or not. All right. I think we're at the top of the hour. I hope this has been helpful to you. if I can do this, trust me, any of you can do this, because I am not the biggest tech person. Like I mentioned, it's like a car. I can drive it, but I don't know how it works. But there's so much good stuff. There's no reason that you can't automate, if not everything, a lot of your process. All right. Make more money, work less. Let me just tell you, life's too short to do another tax season. So thank you very much, everyone. And enjoy the rest of the conference.